There we go. Welcome, welcome, everyone. My name is Fiona Waddell. I'm a psychic and money flow coach, and I help healers and coaches generate money flow for their businesses. And I'm here today with
Hi, I'm Shannon Gorton. I'm an intuitive life purpose coach. I mentor heart centered, creative, wise women to cultivate balance and abundance with ease, purpose, and fun.
Awesome, awesome. So today we are here for our very first episode of Wise Women Podcasting. Yay! So welcome, welcome, welcome. So how will you listen to this podcast? Shannon, can you share, how do you listen to your podcasts?
I like to listen to my podcasts while I am having a bit of a walk outside. I put one of the buds in and listen to it on my iPhone. So I podcast through the iPhone. Sometimes if I'm folding some laundry, I'll just, put my computer speaker on so I can hear it. Sometimes I'll pop in through the YouTube and sit and have a watch. So there's a lot of different ways, but we have
Yeah.
access now.
Yeah. If you're worried about like, how am I going to listen to this? This is roughly going to be about 30 minutes long and just give you some insight and boost your day. So what is the purpose? And I'll go with this one, the Wise Women Podcasting. Why are we here? Why are we doing this? We're here to create a community of light workers, empaths, healers, and coaches ready to innovate and grow into universal change makers. A
Yes,
little lofty,
indeed.
but you know what? Let's think big. Let's create change. So that's why we're here, and that's what we're here to do. So, in our first episode, we wanted to start from the very, very beginning, and that was coming out of the spiritual closet. A lot of things come to mind. Some of you may not have yet, and some of you already have. So you might get a couple of good laughs about this. But we're going to share our stories first, and then we're going to go through a top 5 list of what to do and a top 5 list of what not to do to help you grow and continue move forward. So I'm going to be quiet now a little bit and pass this over to Shannon.
Thanks, Fiona. You're so amazing. You have such a wealth of information to share and so much valuable knowledge. I just love being a part of this with you. So coming out of the spiritual closet, I remember I would tiptoe out and I'd go back in and tiptoe out and go back in, and I didn't like coming out of the spiritual closet. It's scary out there, and it still can be at times. But I wanted to share 5 things that I would like to share that I did that I might suggest to someone who would like to come out of the spiritual closet. Um, One thing that really became apparent to me was tuning into my own authenticity. There are so many labels and stereotypes out there that are misguided, that aren't even true. So tuning into my own authenticity and deciding what feels right for me, what felt right for me about coming out. Um, Another thing was number 2 would be networking with like-minded people. And that would be going to places where like-minded people who are coming out of the spiritual closet or are already out of the spiritual closet are a great way to learn what is authentic to you.
I have a question, Shannon.
Yeah.
How did you know? What was your experience that made you realize you were in the spiritual closet in the first place?
When I had to pretend that I wasn't who I was to fit in.
Mm,
Big signs, big flags. The universe
okay.
is going. "Burr, burr, burr."
Yeah, and what happened in your life around you when you noticed that
Mm,
you weren't in alignment?
mhm. So that's a great question, Fiona. Um, Things that would like come up for me, like I would know something was going to happen before it happened, and I'd say something, and people would be like, like get away, or say something, and somebody else who was like-minded would notice and be like, hey, come hang out with us. You're like, you're one of
Yeah.
us. Come hang out with us. So it works both ways. You can feel like you're being put off, and you can feel like you're being welcomed, depending upon the energy that you're around.
And how old were you when you started to notice these things?
Um, a couple of times as a child, I would tell family that
Hmm.
mhm, that I talking to angels, seeing things that were going to happen, knowing a plaque was going to fall off my wall before it fell, and it kind of freaks parents out. They're like, okay, active imagination, overactive imagination. Um,
Yeah.
and you stifle that away. And then again in seventh grade, I had a dream that apartments down the street were burning. Woke up in the morning to find out they were on fire. They burned overnight. Um, the girls at the sleepover were like, "Oh, get away from us! Get away from us!
Yeah.
You're like way too out there." So that was tough. But at that time is when I started spending more time. And this is one of the other things was to learn more. I started spending more time at the public library, reading about tarot cards and like all sorts of Western esoteric themes. Um, and being a lifelong learner, that segues into learning more, taking classes, reading. I mean, nowadays there's such a wealth of information that we can gain from reading, Audible, Kindle, the library. We've got videos to watch, podcasts to listen to. Um, and the other thing is like take baby steps. That was scary. I tried jumping out of the spiritual closet full on with the cloak and the witchy hat and the tarot cards and the jewelry,
And
and it was a little too dark. um, it wasn't
and when was
authentically
that?
myself. When was this?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. I did it when I first moved to a new town. Um,
So how oldish were you? Because the reason I'm asking is
mm,
there's a lot of people, like I'm going to share my story now. I'm going to get very specific because there's going to be a lot of people listening to our podcast who don't know where they're at, and they need to know that they're not alone, and that's one of the reasons why we're
mm,
doing this. So giving them a framework of a timeline off this experience, it would be helpful. So when you were younger, you started having these incidents or knowings, and you shared them, and they kind of shut you down. And then you started reading a little bit more. But did you start reading in high school or after high
mm,
school, or?
yes. In high school, I spent more time um, with other studies. I had one of my mom's friends gifted me a tarot deck in between middle school and high school, and she says, "I want to sit down and talk with you because I know you're dabbling in things that aren't so good for you in the long term."
Mm,
So she explained to me some things about, coming out of the spiritual closet and the energies, that I'm dabbling with may not always be for my highest good. And that's the path that I want to follow. Like she's like, hands down, no matter what, always follow the light. It's
mm.
like, wow, that's a really solid nugget.
Yeah.
um, I came out a couple times before I had kids. Um, that wasn't welcomed. So again, back I crept into my closet. So I did my research, and I would always I used to howl at the moon. I'd get my daughters, and we'd howl at the moon at one point in time, and we could do rain dances and have the rain come. We would have, and it was quiet within as a single parent. Um, it's easy to be able to set the stage and do it in a low key way. And nowadays, everybody talks a lot about diversity and embracing different cultures and being open. And that's one thing that really came to mind was being able to share that a little bit at a time. Having certain recipes for certain times of the year and sing songs that we could do and crafts that we could do, nature walks. You could totally turn those into, getting in tune with nature, paying attention to the
Mm.
seasons, tuning into the animals and messages. from the, the animal realm. Um, they have their medicine as well. Um, and then I went back in for a while and just did it secretly. I became a member of the Budapest's amazing coven and learned a lot. Um, wasn't quite ready for the full on um, coming out of the closet in that way, um, as an activist for witches. Um, it kind of took my breath away, but it rose up inside of me a passion that had been suppressed for such a long time. So I did more research. I read all of Z's books. I have them all. She's amazing. Z Budapest is from Hungary, and she went in front of a judge in California in 73, 75, and was being persecuted for being a tarot card reader, a fortune teller. And she single-handedly was able to get the judge, who unknowingly had gone through a divorce, was going through a divorce. And Z told her about this, and like nobody else knew. The judge was very private. And so the judge could see, yeah, there's something to this, and overturned tarot reading at that time for women. And it's just like little bits and pieces along the way. You kind of like line things up and see what opens up for you when you notice and when you pay attention. And that's part of learning your flow. Number 5 of the 5 things to do is learning your flow, because you can come in too strong, hot and heavy, as they say, over the top, way out there. Moving to a new town about 10 years ago, and one of my children borrowed my pentacle, and thought, Mom treasures this. Mom loves this so much. I'm sweet on a girl at school, and she's gonna love this so much. Went to the Halloween school function. The PTO mom, was really sweet, really nice, calls me aside and says, I don't know if he had permission to share this, but he gave this to my daughter, and I wanted to return it to you because I'm sure you're probably missing it. Cool. And I was so embarrassed. She was so cool about it. So cool. I mean, you never know, right? It could have been a completely different outcome, but it was handled in such a loving way. And we became acquaintances, and did things together with his kids at the school. And you never know, it's not like her cup of tea. And but she handled it very graciously, and that was really appreciated, of course. So yeah, so it's like you never know what you're gonna get when you put your toe out there. But when you're confident in yourself and you're authentic in who you are, it builds your confidence. And over time, you do build your confidence. I'm fine to walk outside now and use my arms up and look up at the moon, or chant, an invocation, or do a ritual or a ceremony outside without fearing of doing that, because I'm comfortable. And it's not like I go out and I light the bonfire and dance naked under the moon. Some do. That's not for me.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just like, retreats, going on retreats with wonderful witchy women is an experience. Like for 3 or 4 years, or 4 years, I think it was, twice a year, have these beautiful retreats and spend this beautiful time in meditation and singing and in reflection and journaling, and sharing a fine meal with 13 other women, 12 other women, however many would attend the retreats. It's such a beautiful experience. I highly recommend it. So I get chatty, Fiona.
No,
Let me
you're
start.
doing great. So this is our first episode, so we tend to share. So it sounds like, because I'm going to jump in now and talk about my experience, but for you, from reflecting on what you did, and we'll recap your top five afterwards. Um, Again, is it was a journey of empowerment for you, each
Absolutely.
step, and it was like you would take, and I want to rephrase this, you take four steps forward and take one step back sometimes, but you
Hmm.
still had made three steps forward. So power of three right there, right?
Yep.
So that's what's important. So yeah, I'm going to jump in now and share a little bit about my experience. Very, very similar, and you'll hear this, is that as a child, I had a knowingness. I would feel things. One of my strongest psychic gifts is I'm clairsentient. Ever since I was a kid, I could feel energies, walk into rooms. I could sense people that were not good, when
Mm.
people were not necessarily for the highest good. Um, it wasn't until, and of course, my family shut it down in the sense that, oh, what a cute little girl, funny little stories. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I started going to church and everything like that. And so it kind of just went off to the side. And it wasn't until high school I'd watch the news and know where missing people were. It was really
Mm.
weird. And I'd be like, meh,
Mm.
maybe I'm watching too many horror movies. And I remember one time I read a news report and I'm like, oh, I knew that this person was there. It was a missing
Ooh, I
child.
got
And it was just,
goosebumps. Oh my goodness.
yeah, it's happened a few times. So I just take a step back. It doesn't happen all the time. And it's a gift I don't work on. But that happened in high school. So high school, I was a Christian. My goal was to become a Christian missionary, and I was studying to be a Christian missionary in high school while reading about Chinese astrology and astrology. Doesn't make sense, I know. And I followed this all the way through high school and into the first 2 years of university. And then I just became completely disenfranchised when I went to a Christian spiritual event, and it wasn't in alignment with my values. And I'm just going to leave it there, leave it
Mm.
at the door there, because I was doing it because I wanted to help people. I wanted to bring food and water and raise money to bring better supplies for them. But that wasn't in alignment with the people I was around. So I was completely disenfranchised, probably when I was around 20. And it was just like, as soon as I walked away from that 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 mindset, everything flooded back. Um, I was surrounded by people who were all black and were doing like rituals and ceremonies and such. And I'm like, where did these people come from? And apparently they've been there all along. And I got involved. I ended up getting a religious studies degree,
Mm.
and I loved comparative religions and just learning about the world and the different people and gifts just made me realize how amazing each and every single one of us are. And so, of course, by this point, my family, their heads were spinning. They're like, we don't know where Fiona's at. We don't know what she's up to. One minute she said she's going to go save the world as a missionary. Now she's just like, I want everyone to hold hands and sing kumbaya. Um, so it was just like it was crazy. Then I lived in Japan for 4.5 years, and I was exposed to this amazing melting pot in Japan of Shinto, Buddhism, and Christianity all together as one. And
Beautiful.
it's 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 really cool. So, and just the mindset, and it just works in their culture. And I grew to appreciate that. And so when I came back to Canada, I still was very shy. And it wasn't until 20, mm, 2015, I was probably in my mid 30s. On a fluke, I took a Reiki course. Like, I don't even know how I ended up at that class. I had met her at a tea shop. She ordered a tea. I asked for her business card, which she never gives out. Looked at her business card, went to her website and signed up for her class. I showed up and she said to me, And she was asking everyone, "Why are you studying Reiki?" It's like, I don't know. I'm supposed to be here. And that's when I suddenly realized the universe had me on track. Again, it had my back. And I took my first degree Reiki, and my life changed. It suddenly felt like this huge veil was removed, and there was potential in me that I never had connected before. And it was through that I moved up through Reiki and studied and expanded my energy and explored, but I was still very, very quiet. So it wasn't until 20, I started a business in 2016, but I didn't take it seriously. It wasn't until 2018 I stepped out. And then I stepped back because everyone was trying to tell me how to run my business and take away the woo woo. And I'm like, okay, I won't make money. Okay. So, anyways, so I listened to everybody else. And then it was really, I had big shifts again. Actually, just this year when I was asked to join a psychic fair traveling across Ontario, um, as a psychic tarot card reader, because I had been doing tarot since like 2012.
You are amazing at tarot readings.
Thank
Oh
you.
my gosh, hands down, like one
Thank
of
you.
the best. Oh my gosh.
But I never saw it as something
Mhm.
to sell. It's something I didn't see the energy exchange in it. And people had been doing readings with me for ages, and I didn't put two and two together. And so I started doing it, and I really had problems calling
Mm,
myself a psychic. Now I'm fine, but it took me like weeks to get over this, which
yeah.
is funny with all the mindset training. And even somebody who's evolved and moved forward as myself, because I've been working on myself for like uh, over 10 years, but I still struggled with that. So I would say now I'm completely out of the closet, and I cannot fit back in the closet if I tried at this stage. But there was a lot of fear when I finally stepped forward, and I don't like labels, but I had to do something. Like, I had to call myself something. And so I chose psychic. Because when I do the card readings, I'm clairsentient, claircognizant, I'm downloading messages and images. They're all coming through. I can't not identify with that being an
Mhm.
intuitive skill.
Well, that's
Um,
something I wanted to ask you, Fiona. If you've mentioned a lot about energy, and as someone who's still maybe in the closet or dipping their toe, out of the closet into that energetic pool of woo, um, how would you define, like, if someone wasn't sure about the clairs, about their energy, like, how can they learn
that's
more
a
about
great
that?
question. Um, Claire, so we're all born with the basic senses that we're taught scientifically as, hearing, taste, touch,
Mhm.
smell. I'm sure there's whatever, you know what I mean. We're all with me, sight. So those were quantitative. Science could measure those.
Mhm.
Um, and then the clairs are the ones they don't, the science were not taught because they couldn't measure them. However, there are some articles now that they can measure the clairs. I know. So they finally have discovered the receptors for how people are clairsentient. But, anyways, we're born with those senses generally. I'm going to say some people are born without certain senses, but overall, we have those senses. On the same end, we also have these other clairs. We are born with them. We have all of them. We have clairvoyance, the ability to see things. We have claircognizance, the ability to have a knowingness. We have clairaudience, to hear messages, connect messages. There's clairsentience, which is feeling. And then we also have, there actually is one for taste and smell,
Yes,
as
absolutely.
well. So, like any senses, some of us have great eyesight, some of us have great taste buds or a great sense of smell. The same thing for our clairs. We will have a stronger clair more than the others. So if you're tiptoeing back and forth and you're interested in saying, first of all, you can Google search, a Claire survey and see which ones are dominant for you. And you can learn the other Claires. You can. Just for me, I've always been gifted as a clairsentient. So I guess that's why, universe, I was drawn towards Reiki, which is energy healing through the hands. And I just took to it like white on rice. Um, so there are tools you can use to discover your strong clairs. I have discovered a lot of people who are amazing visual artists are clairvoyant. They don't
Oh,
know
that's
it.
fascinating.
They can see images, they can put things together, they see things in light that we don't see. That's a stepping stone to being clairvoyant. It's just because you
Beautiful.
don't see, I see dead people. Just because you don't see people who pass on doesn't mean you're still getting messages and ideas. Like you could even go, like I have fun with Plato's Republic when you're looking at the guy who designed the chair or the table. I can't remember its story. But everything starts out with source, and then we're inspired with an idea, and then we create it. That's a form of clairvoyance, that idea, that inspiration, right? So
Yep,
it's
yep.
we have these psychic gifts. We have these clairs. So if you're sitting in the spiritual closet or tiptoeing in and out, and you want to develop your extra senses, your extra sensory perception gifts, yeah, your clairs are the way to go. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's
Yes.
awesome. Thanks, Fiona.
Little sidetrack there with clairs.
Energy is so much fun, and
Yay!
your clairs are a fun way to play
They
with energy.
they are,
Yeah.
they are. So that's kind of like my story. Like I progressed, but I consistently kept going back. And I think part of mine, for the most part, was never fear driven. I
Mm.
was never afraid. It wasn't until I took the label of psychic that I felt some pushback, because to me that I just have such high regard for that word. For me, it's like for me, a little bit of imposter syndrome jumped in there. But it was more like I was a bit of a numbskull. I didn't get it. Like, is this who, like, people would look at me? I had a friend from high school who came in for a reading, and she's like, I knew you were gifted all along. And all I could think of was, why didn't you tell me? Everybody knew, even my mom. My mom, who I was expecting, was like, no, yeah, no, this is you. I'm like, everybody knew but me. Bit of a goof. But yeah, my experience. So it wasn't necessarily a journey for empowerment for me as it was for you. For me, it was like the veil being pulled away and finding myself and learning to love that part of myself because I had ignored it for so long. So
That's
yeah,
beautiful, Fiona. Thank you.
that's mine. So yeah, if you're sitting on the fence, the spiritual closet, it's time. It's
Mm.
time, and your own pace. There's
Yeah.
no best before date for you. You coming out of the closet. Thank gosh. So
Yeah.
I created the top 5 list for what not to do when you're coming out of the spiritual closet. Shannon did what to do, and I'm doing what not to do. So number 1 is don't preach and try to convert everyone. I know it's so tempting. You come out of the spiritual closet and you're like, I get it. I understand how to manifest. I know how to feel good. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Ugh, not everybody's on that vibe yet, and you might scare and push people away. Number 2, don't try to do everything at once. Like you can't learn about crystals, aromatherapy, color therapy, feng shui, all of that all at once. It will blow your mind. And you do have to like work and study and have a life. Number 3, do not think your shifting is all over. Actually, your healing has just begun. Welcome to the
Yes.
party. So, yeah, if you're just coming out of the spiritual closet, that first step's awesome. heads up, you're going to start healing now. This is when it begins. Number 4, I was a little hesitant, but I feel like this is a disclaimer. Do not think that everyone who is high vibe is good.
Mm,
Um, it's so
yeah.
tempting to trust everyone when you see rainbows and unicorns and, you know, rose tinted glasses that you're just like, these are my people. Not all of them are. Um, there's a lot of marketing to this community.
Mhm.
There's a lot of, well, what did you use earlier when we were preparing for this podcast?
Oh, the psychic vampires.
Yes,
Yeah.
psychic vampires and psychic warfare. There are people in the community that, you know, drag other people down, and jealousy. Not everybody's healing is on the up and up.
Mm.
There's a lot of people in this community who still have a lot of vows and karmic issues they're not releasing or dealing with. So treat them, treat everybody the same.
Mm.
Like don't hand over your pin codes and wallets and
Mhm.
to everyone. But we're safe.
That's a great point.
Trust us. With that, oh my gosh. No, it's true though.
You
Yes,
just
just
gotta
be careful.
mind.
Be
Yeah.
mindful. Do your
Mm.
research. Talk to a friend. Um, and number 5 is don't go back in the closet. Don't go back
Aw,
in. Don't don't go back in.
yeah.
You're not meant to stay there. This is a life about growth and moving forward. And you've got a beautiful light to shine. Not everyone does. So it's like I understand going back to recharge, but you don't want to stay there.
Right, right. That's a great list, Fiona. That's
Yes.
awesome. I like the one, being mindful of other people's energy. Like, we learn not to put our happiness in someone else's pocket. So why would you put your energy in
Mm,
someone else's care? Like,
yeah.
why would you want to place that in their vibe to care for? Um, and it's not being selfish at all. It's just maintaining what is yours, is
Yeah.
your energy. And the other one that I really liked was don't go back in. How many times? Go back in, tip it out, tip, 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 and go back in. It's like you're like the turtle, right?
Yeah.
Coming out of the shell a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah, but yeah, really good points, Fiona. Really good points. Thank
And
you.
can you recap your points? Because you put your points into your story, and I was just like, can you just tell us what
Yeah.
your top 5 are? What
Okay.
should we do?
Okay. Top 5 things to do is tune into your own authenticity. Number 2, networking with like-minded peeps. Number 3, baby steps. Number 4 is learn more. Comes from a lifelong learner, but learn more. And then number 5, learn your flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the baby steps and learn your flow, especially as a Reiki practitioner and somebody who coaches other entrepreneurs to be in money flow. The first thing to go is energy. Scattering of energy and putting your energy in places and in people that you shouldn't. And it's once you find that, that's where, you know, you hear people saying I'm an intuitive healer, is because we're trying to personalize to your resonance and your frequency. And excuse me, as part as I have too much sage burning. I'm actually
You
getting
okay?
smoked out in here. um yeah, a little thank you. In another country, but that will help. um
That's the energy vibe, you know.
Thank you. um it's that's the intuitive approach, is we want to find something unique to you,
Yeah.
your resonance, your frequency. And it's something that this it's always the first thing I address with my clients is, how do you spend your time? Because time is the one thing we can't get back. We can get money back, we can replace objects, but time is where we invest our energy. And so that's the first place I begin. First place I begin with all clients in my programs. It's this like, yeah, you know this. we, we
Do.
we talk about this, like, how was your week? And we're actually asking, how is your flow going?
any speed bumps or
Yeah.
hiccups. Yeah. So if for somebody who's new to coming out of the spiritual closet and they're feeling a little um like airy, like too much in the head, what are some ways someone might want to explore kind of like getting grounded again, like getting back a little bit of the balance? Do you have any
That's
tips?
yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh,
um,
yes.
yes. Well, that's grounding 101, and I even talk about this when I do my psychic tarot card readers because there's some cards in the tarot deck based on the sequences. I can tell right off the bat if somebody's ungrounded, especially if I'm doing a health reading. That comes up. And even when I do Reiki sessions, when you're a Reiki practitioner, you ground them to begin the healing, and then you ground them again at the end of the healing. um, that's how you can stop being so airy. So you can Google grounding techniques, but some of the grounding techniques I recommend just that you can do around the house. Walk around barefoot, even if it's inside the house. Invest in a grounding mat if you can. Wear black. Black is very, very grounding and protective. Any black stones, black tourmaline, obsidian, jet, shungite is amazing. Um, and meditations. When you're doing the meditations in the beginning, try to do them seated and
Mhm.
imagine the energy from the earth coming up from behind you, up over your head and back down, because that's actually how your energy flows. So let it come up from behind you and imagine that as you're doing the meditation. So those are some of the key ways I do grounding.
Okay, those are great ideas. So today we talked about, you know, who Wise Women podcast and why and how to listen to us. Um, a little bit of insight as to what it's like to come out of the closet somewhat and all the way many times. We talked about things to do and things not to do. Um, I like this. This is fun. Let's do this again, Fiona.
Yes, 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 yes. On that note, let's talk about what's happening. So this is a bi-weekly or bi-monthly. Oh my gosh, every 2 weeks. every too many. No, every 2 weeks we will have this podcast available for you to download and listen to. So yes, that I'm trying to get to my notes. So
So,
that is yeah, every 2 weeks we'll have it up on Mondays.
so we're gonna drop these into the podcasting scene on Mondays, and we want to know what you want to know,
Yeah.
right, Fiona?
So with that, we ask that you like and subscribe and ring the bell for us on YouTube here. And in your comments, we would love to hear about your experiences if you want to share. And also any ideas for future shows or any questions you may have for us. You will find in the description section how to get in contact with us if you have any questions, and also access the Facebook group for our Facebook page for this podcast and stay connected with us.
And you'll learn how you can work with Fiona. Work with Fiona. She's amazing.
Oh shit, you're amazing too. I love the work that you do. All
Thanks,
I have to
Fiona.
say is okay, shameless plug. Um, Shannon did this amazing Akashic Records guided meditation. And it's probably the first time when I did Akashic work. This was months ago. I think it's the beginning of the year. I actually saw it. And I'm not, when I do meditations, I don't always see. And then I fell asleep. And then I woke up and it was like, I woke up just as she was finishing. And, but then I had this knowingness. It was like this knowledge was there all of a sudden. I'm like, whoa, I got to do this more often. So, yes, as much as Shannon says I'm wonderful, she's just as cracking too. So yeah, we are two energy workers, healers, coaches that just want to help shift the energy around us, empower healers, coaches, light workers, empaths to start creating change. So, yes, this is our first episode, and we can only grow from here. So, lots of love to everyone, and check us out in 2 weeks. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye, everyone. See you next time.